Hello everyone, the Samsung Galaxy S24 has been out for about a month now, and I wanted to kind of break down a little bit of a, updated review on this particular phone and kind of explain to you how it's been holding up the last month. Now, the first thing I would definitely tell you is I love this phone. I think it's a very, very good phone, and it easily is one of the best choices Samsung's ever made. I think going from like one generation of this device to the other, I think Samsung killed it, and I'm so happy they made this type of device because it really showcased to me the best things of all Samsung phones combined. I love that they changed the body a little bit, and I love the software improvements they did. And I actually do think this phone, compared to all of its predecessors, actually holds up very well. Now, there are some areas where maybe some other phones beat it, but I will be honest, for a lot of different devices out there, I'm just so glad that I have a phone like this phone and the Pixel 8 that I can recommend people to buy for like years and years and years from now. There was always this really awkward thing between a lot of Samsung phones and even some Pixels, but mostly Samsung phones, where I would pick that phone up and I would I'd pick up some older Samsung phone and I would still think to myself, wow, this phone is still holding up very well from a hardware perspective, even from a performance perspective, but the phone is just outdated with software and it didn't get software updates for a year or two, and it automatically deems that phone not worth it in my opinion, which is actually a very crazy thing. Some examples of this is like the Galaxy S10, the Galaxy S8 was kind of like that, and now the Galaxy S20 is kind of like that too. So we're just kind of stuck in this phase where it's not really worth buying for a lot of these phones, mostly because they're just not really supported with software anymore. But on the flip side, the Galaxy S24 has kind of changed that. Because these phones are getting 7 years of software and security updates, that basically means that for the next, several years, I would basically be able to recommend this phone to a ton of people out there without even having to go and really worry about, really anything else. If there's a problem with the software, the hardware, whatever, then that's one thing. But if there's a problem with the software, Samsung could go and just fix it and then push out an update and fix those problems. So after the last past month, I would say, I've been loving that particular feature of my Samsung Galaxy, and we'll get into that even more in a second. But starting off with the outside again, I think there's just, we've already beaten the outside so much, but this is still a very beautiful phone. 6.2-inch dynamic LTPO AMOLED display. It's a very good panel. Really, no matter what you're going to do with it, it's going to be perfect. It's like the brightest Samsung panel of all time. It looks amazing. It feels so good. And realistically speaking, no matter what I'm going to do with this phone, I'm going to have a really good time with it. It also gets 120 Hz. And although it's still a 1080p panel, I don't think that's that big of a problem. And I do think this is a very good device. I love the Samsung Galaxy S24, and I think the display is a very good feature of it. It's a flat display too, so it's not curved like the Galaxy S20, but still a very good display. And just everything about this phone is just very good. And it's easily one of my most favorite things going on for this particular device, without a doubt. Now on the sides, another really cool thing that ended up happening here was that we actually did end up getting, this is very cool, the complete flat side on this particular phone. So this was slightly different than before, because before, as you may have suggested or you may have seen, you basically were getting a standard type of kind of curved side to it. I didn't really understand what Samsung was doing there, and it was kind of curved. It's like the Pixel 8s. It's curved but not really. And this one on the Galaxy S24, they just completely took it from, almost like Apple's playbook and made a completely flat side. Very cool thing. I love that. And that in and of itself is a very nice thing that Samsung kind of threw in here, because it really does kind of give it, it makes it, a much more premium feeling device in and of itself, which is a very cool thing going on here. And that, again, in and of itself is a very cool thing that I love. And if I'm about to go and buy a phone, I definitely want it to be a phone that has some sort of capability like that. And again, that in and of itself is a very, very cool thing nonetheless. So that right there, without a doubt, is again one of my most favorite things going on with this particular phone is the body. The backside still have that frosted glass back, which feels very premium and very good. You have that triple camera setup as well. And realistically speaking, no matter what I'm going to do with my device, I'm probably going to have a very, very good time with it. But I love having this type of phone, which basically just looks this great, because it really is that great. It performs so well, and I love that body because that camera is so great, and because the body feels so good. There's just endless things to kind of, write at home about this phone because it's so great. You have wireless charging, reverse wireless charging, very good feeling phone IP certification, lots and lots of good stuff with this phone without a doubt, and it definitely gets a thumbs up for me. The camera was one of those things though that was very surprising, because I didn't really think it was that big of a difference from the Galaxy S23. So you were still maintaining that triple camera setup on the outside. So 50 megapixel wide, 10 megapixel telephoto, then a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, and then that 12 megapixel wide wide-angle camera on the front. You were getting 4K 60 on the front and the back, and then 8K video on the back as well. And I will tell you from, that perspective as well, very good camera. It's not a terrible camera. It's a very, very good camera. And I, for one, I'm a big fan of it. The only thing going on for the Galaxy S24, though, that I'm kind of like maybe indifferent about, or like, I don't know the best way to describe it, but I didn't really think it was that big of a difference from the Galaxy S23. And I feel like that, again, was probably one of the more interesting things going on here. I feel like they should have actually gone through and made a bigger difference, but I guess even that's not that big of a deal. Who cares? But Samsung did kind of state that they did go through and give us a little bit of a better, I guess, adaptation if you're into the social media applications. So if you're in like, Snapchat or TikTok or Instagram, and if you're going through and actually utilizing those applications, you might be seeing that those particular apps are basically giving you, I guess like a better experience overall. But even then, like, I don't really even know if that's that big of a difference. Like, I feel like you're basically getting very similar type of experience between both. But again, that's not even that big of a deal. And if you're going to go ahead and use some sort of device like this, I feel like you're going to be perfectly fine nonetheless. But keep in mind, if you are actually going through and using this type of device, you're going to be getting an overall better experience in those social media apps on the S24. So keep that in mind. This kind of leads us into the performance as well. And I definitely will tell you the, Samsung Galaxy S24's performance is very good. And I've compared this particular phone against a lot of other phones as well. So the Galaxy S23, S22, S21, S20, even the S10. I've done the iPhone 15s, the iPhone 15 Pro, the iPhone 14s. I've done so many phones to compare this phone against so many other devices. And it's actually shocking to me still how good of a job this particular phone holds up against those ones. This is the latest and greatest, and this one should perform at a very high level. But I will tell you, I love the Galaxy S24, and it's a very good phone. And the performance, it's just another testament to this. It's such a good performing device, which is something I love seeing. And if I'm about to go ahead and buy some sort of phone, I definitely want it to be, at some caliber as to this device, because it's going to be that great of a device when it comes down to it. So if you're wanting the fastest phone in the world, or one of the fastest phone, you can't really go that much better than the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chipset and the 8 or 12 gigabytes of RAM on these particular phones. Like, it doesn't just naturally come that much better than that. And I do think if you're going to go ahead and buy some sort of device, this is by far one of the biggest assets. You're going to be getting a phone that's going to be giving you a very good experience from that perspective, which is something that, I actually like and prefer a lot. So that right there is another very big, massive thing to kind of keep in mind here. Beyond that though, I do feel like with the Galaxy S24, this is pretty much one of the best phones you can buy. It's giving you an overall really good package. Things like great battery life, great performance, great camera. And the best thing that I love the most is that software longevity. The fact that this phone is going to be lasting that much longer, or that long in general, is a very good thing. And I definitely love that a lot. If you're buying a phone like this, you're going to be getting a device that's going to be performing very, very well, which is something I love. It's not perfect by any means, but it's a very good phone. And whenever I compared it against any of those other devices, it's been giving me a very good experience. I love this phone a lot because of that. And I do think, again, if I'm going to go and buy a phone, this one definitely gets a thumbs up for me. And it doesn't really get that much better than this one. Of course, there are much better phones than this overall, but it's a very good device. And like I said, I'm a big fan of it. If I'm going to recommend a phone to people, this is definitely one of them that are just really good. So that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.